There was a time back in October of 2020 where I remember her waking up in the morning to that horrible smell of smoke and bad air quality. The air was so dry that I had a hard time breathing. I remember waking up also hearing that loud wind sound. I remember looking out the window and seeing almost the entire sky being clouded with smoke. This was a result of a power line nearby being knocked down onto dry vegetation, and therefore it caused a fire that began spreading rapidly. The fire got so contagious and the air quality and smoke got so bad that me and my family had to evacuate from my house. And it wasn't just me and my family that had to evacuate, it was almost the whole city of Irvine had to evacuate from their homes. And many of the people around Irvine had either their houses burned down or some of them even got destroyed. The fire was so contagious is that that it was less than 50% containable at the time when it was happening, and it took at least a day for the firefighters to contain it. But luckily, everyone was okay. But believe it or not, the wildfires in the world still happen a lot today, even though many people may not see it right now, but it still happens. This is a result of human activity happening, and us humans are what are creating these wildfires. And us humans can create that climate change, and we use greenhouse gas emissions, and therefore all of these are what contribute to the risk of wildfires happening. Therefore, I'm here to convince you that us humans should use less greenhouse gas emissions to prevent climate change from happening, and therefore we can reduce the risk of wildfires and promote having clean air quality, and therefore us humans can have better life. First, I'm going to explain the problems of wildfires, and second, I'll explain why wildfires are happening, and third, I'll explain of the solutions how we can prevent wildfires from happening or reduce the risk of wildfires happening. First things first, let's talk about the problems. The LA Times on September 13th of 2020 states that many people are suffering from bad air quality each day. Whether there could be a fire happening right now or not. Even if a fire is not happening, the air quality can still be bad as a result of pollution from gas or other types of fuel. And not only that, wildfires can take the lives of people or can cause things like skin cancer, heart disease, or sunburn as a result of it being so hot or that the air quality is so hot. The Maui wildfires last year have taken the lives of at least 111 people and damaged lots of houses and homes, according to the USA Today, stated on August 18th of 2023. And not only that, summers are getting hotter and hotter each year. They are 2 degrees hotter than in the 1970s and is supposed to be 4.5 degrees hotter by the end of this century, according to LA Times on September 13th of 2020. And also, in 2022, more than 70,000 hectares have burned in more than 5,000 fires within the past few years, according to Irish Times, stated on August 16th of 2022. The effects of wildfires can be very harmful and devastating to us humans, and it's very sad to know that many people have lost their homes as a result of these wildfires. And it can sometimes cost a lot of money to get a new house or restore urban areas that have been destroyed from fires. Next thing I'll talk about, now that I've explained the problems of the wildfires, let's talk about why these wildfires happen. The causes of these wildfires are climate change. While climate change can be natural, it's also human activity that could be causing these wildfires. Dry winds combined with machines that sparks or just planting power lines in hazardous areas can increase the risk of wildfires, according to Conversation US stated on April 12th of 2024. That was the reason why the Silverado fire happened near my area in which I had to evacuate. And not only that, there's it could also be because of bad forest planning. or forgetting to put out a campfire. Having dry vegetation in very dry hazardous areas can increase the risk of wildfires happening, because let's say if a windstorm happens and the fire starts to happen, the fire can spread from one plant to another, and therefore the fire can become contagious. Now that and also another cause of wildfire is the energy that in the atmosphere that is no longer used in evaporation, according to LA Times, stated on September 13th of 2020. Now that I've explained the problems of why these wildfires happen, let's explain the solutions of how we can prevent these wildfires from happening. The USA Today states that having less vegetation or plants in dry hazardous areas can definitely reduce the risk of the wildfires from happening. So, harvesting fruit before the dry months like October can also be a good way to prevent these fires from happening. Another thing we can do is building solar panels to use renewable energy. Therefore, there will be no energy that is stuck in the air on that dry soil, and therefore there won't be too much heat in the air, and therefore that energy will be recycled. And also, another thing we can do is using less greenhouse gases. Some ways we can use less greenhouse gases would be walking or biking to school when possible, or just burning less coal when possible, or we can cook by using an electric stove. And according to the Conversation US, on October 17, 2023, using less greenhouse gas emissions is the best way to prevent this climate change from happening, and it can also reduce the risk of the wildfires from happening. Today, I convinced you to use less greenhouse gases to reduce the risk of wildfires. While climate change can be a natural thing in the world, I think that us humans can reduce the risk of wildfires by using less greenhouse emissions, and by using less greenhouse emissions, we can make the air quality much cleaner, and therefore many people won't have their homes destroyed or burned down, and therefore many people can just enjoy life better. Thank you.